All right. Hello, everyone. It's time to get back to coding, and I'm going to continue working on the same app that I was last Thursday that we ran out of time. So we'll kind of see what we have going on there. Let's switch over to this view. And great. So last week's video is now up on YouTube. You can get to that by clicking on the playlist icon on my Twitch profile, and that will take you to the StitchCraft playlist, and you can find last week's video. And we're going to be kicking it off from there. So I'm going to be coding for about an hour. That's all the time I have for today, but we'll see how far we can get. So let's kind of take a look at what we were doing last week, just building a simple app to, to store some animated GIFs. And so what we were able to accomplish was we now have authentication built in, and we're using email and password. And so if I can remember the users, let's go over to our Stitch console. And I created a user called person1@mdb.com. So let's log in as that. Person1@mdb.com. And I believe I made the password password1. And we're off. And we have a simple, no thank you. We have a simple little form here that asks for a GIF URL and a description, and we can add it. And I think we did some console logs to see what we were doing. So let's go over here and find a GIF. What's a good one? Let's find, and just pull up one. We will take, here's a little pug. Can we get that one? Maybe not. All right, we'll do this one. This one's good. Old Jimmy Fallon. Oh, it's a yuck reaction. I just want one. Here we go. Old Britney Spears. And we're going to copy the link. And we're going to grab the GIF link. Copy that. Add that in as the GIF URL. And I'm just going to put yuck. And we're going to hit add. And we've added the GIF. And it's been uploaded to S3. So we got that far, but we are not actually showing anything. So let's take care of that. Let's quickly jump over into our Stitch console and see what kind of rules that we have set up. So we do have a rule for the GIFs collection, and we are allowing read and write only to the owner. It's interesting. I thought I set that up for something else. But so with how we have it set up now, you can only read and write your own things. So we'll keep it like that for now, since we're the only ones logged in. So let's go back over to the code. And what we need to do is we need to write a query to pull all the items from that GIF collection. And so I'm going to create a function to do it. Where do I want to do it? Let's do it under here. And so this is going to be get gifs. And we are going to use this MongoDB reference to pull that out. And so we can just start by doing a query. So we can do this.mongodb. And then we can do .collection and access the GIFs collection. And we can come over here and make sure that that's right. Looking at Data Explorer and Atlas, we see that, yeah, the collection is GIFs. And this is kind of what it looks like right now. So there is one in there. Actually, if we refresh, we have two in there as well. All right, So back over here. So now that we have reference to the collection, we can do a find. And I'm just going to do a find on everything, and I'm not going to add a sort because I realized that I didn't save the timestamp. That's usually something I do, but we can fix that later. So we're just going to do a find all, and then it's going to be to array. To array should work. And so that is going to return a promise. So we can do then, and that's going to return our results. And we simply need to set that in the state. So we can do this dot set state, and we'll say gifs is equal to the result. So the result should be an array of documents. And so we'll set that, and I'm going to go ahead and go up to where we set our default state, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add that in. So we're going to say that gifs is just going to be an integer array by default. And Prettier didn't care that I put that all in one line, so that's fine. So now we have this function that we can run, and we're going to want to run it when the component mounts if we are authenticated. So if you remember, if we're not authenticated, we see just the login screen. But whenever we are authenticated, that's when we want to start seeing the gifs. So we'll come down here. So we know that we're authenticated here. And then we'll just run, so if is auth, we're going to run this function, so this dot get gifs. And that should put it into the state, and then we can use it down into the render. So how are we going to display these? That's a good question. Let's start by creating a separate component to put these in. So in here in is auth, we've got our, which button is this? This is our logout button. So after here, let's say we're going to create a component, and we're going to call it I think I said I used feed before. I kind of like that. So it's going to be a feed of gifs, and so I'm going to pass that gif array in. So let's go ahead and pull it from the state here, and we'll pass it into this button, and we'll just say gifs equal gifs, and we'll build this out here in a minute. So let's go ahead and add this component, even though we haven't created it yet. Feed from, and we're going to store it in components in a file called feed. And so we'll go over here and create that. Feed.js. And I'm going to grab some stuff from over here. Pop that in. Does this need to be a class, or can it be a stateless component? I believe it can be a stateless component, so we're gonna start with that. Do I use that anywhere else here? I wish I remembered my little command that throws it on there, but it's fine. So const feed is equal to prop. Actually, let's gif. We're going to return some JSX, and we're going to export default feed. I'm doing this like all from memory, so we'll see if it if I mess up here. I need to put parens around that. Cool, cool. All right, so what I want to use, I used this in Pickstream and it worked out pretty well. I don't have it open. So let's go to our semantic UI components that we're using in this. And I'm going to use the cards because it's a nice way to show an image and have a little bit extra. And then it also can be arranged into a group. So if we see here the card, my internet is lagging today. All right, so we're going to start with a card group. Oh, that's not what I want. There we go. Let's look at the variations. Sure, grouped centered. So if we look at what we've got, we're going to be importing card from the library. I'm going to go ahead and snag that. And actually, we don't need component here. And so we're going to use, oh, they're passing it in as items. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to use the card.group component. And so when we return here, we're going to return this card.group. And should we make it centered? Yeah, let's make it centered. Centered. And I'm going to make it, what's it called? Stackable. And that's something that I add just so it looks good on mobile. And then we are going to use a card. Save that so that gets formatted nicely. And so this is what we're going to use to display the information in the gifs. And we're actually going to have to do a map over the gifs. So let's do gifs.map, and that is going to return us a GIF. And we'll pass that to a function that builds out the card. So we're going to return the card here. And we can kind of build out what that looks like. So let's take a look at what the cards look like. So the types of cards, I think we're going to use something very similar to this, maybe not with everything, but if we go in here to the example, we are going to use the image. So I'm just going to steal this. So let's open that back up. And so we got an image, and the source is going to come from our gift item. All right. So the name of that property is, and if we go back over here and look at is the GIF URL. So we'll throw that in there, gif.gif URL. Cool, and then the other thing that we saved in there was the description. And so we'll use that, and I think we'll go and we'll put the description in this card.description. I think that sounds pretty great, pretty good use. So let's copy that, put that under, and I just realized that we need to actually import image if we're going to use it. That would have yelled at me later, but that's fine. So card.description, and that is going to be gif.description. And then let's use the header, and we'll make that the person that uploaded, or we'll just put the person's name. So we'll use a card.header after the image, So you do need to wrap that in curly braces if you want that to work. And for the header, I'm going to put in the gif dot well, we have the owner ID, but what we're not saving is the actual owner name. So for right now, I'll just do the owner ID and we can come back and clean that up later just to make sure that this is working. So this is going to be owner ID. And does that look good? So we are passing in gifs as an array and we're mapping over that. And then for each gif, we are returning a card item to put inside this. So I do have the application running. Let's see what that looks like. So let's go back over here. And this.mongodb, oh, wait, oh, it's thinking about it. Okay. Let's go to, let's see what the hubbub is about. All right, so this.mongodb.collection is not a function. Oh, so this is a good typo. I did not define the database. So down here, I have this .db data, and then I access the collection, and I just forgot to put that in. So yeah, there is no function off of the instance that is .collection that is off of a database. So good. Should be an easy fix. Just got to find my function. So we'll put that right there. And save and go check it out again. We'll give it a refresh. Awesome. So here we have two cards. Oh, it needs a unique key. We can take care of that here in a minute. But we have the GIF displaying, and we have the description, and then the name of the person. So if we want, so let's first take care of this. Iterator should have a unique key prop. So whenever you are doing a map or iterating over, it likes you to have a key on the item. So we can go back over to feed, and just in this card, we can say that key is equal to, and because we're using MongoDB, we have a key. So we're going to just go ahead and feed it the underscore ID. And save that, and that should take care of that little error there. Great. And so let me go back and look at the card UI. So Matthew, it's a header. Did I not put that in? Oh, here's something I missed. All of that sits inside card content. So let's add that card.content. It's probably going to make things look a little better. Go back over to our app. There we go. So we got actually a header here, and we got some more padding. That's great. So I could add another one, but I think we have not modified our add to actually refresh the information afterwards. So let's go look at our add function again. So we're handling the add GIF. So right now we are just console logging the result, but I want to do more than that. So let's add some curly braces, and let's continue to console.log the result. but I need to also run this dot get gifs because we've updated the collection, and so we need to pull it back down. Yeah. And so now we can go back over here. This is going to refresh, but let's find another GIF. Give me something. Give me something, Steven Universe. I'm a fan of watching Steven Universe. So we're going to use one of these GIFs. Here's Garnet. She is one of my favorites. Find the link, grab the GIF link, and we'll go back over to our app. And I'm going to paste that in there, and I'm going to say Garnet is the coolest. And we're going to add it. And so whenever I add it this time, we should see, and let me pull this down, that's quite a bit. Come here, come here. There we go. Let's pull you down. Not that far. And so whenever I add it, you should see it insert into our awesome. While I'm at it, let's go ahead and change up the add function so it adds the username as well. Did it do that? Do we have that access actually? I'm so used to building things out using the Google authentication that gives me all of this user data that I just assume that I have this stuff. So let's go into our Stitch console and we'll go down to the users again. And yeah, the name, all we have is the email address. So, well, I guess that's better than seeing the ID. So we'll just go ahead and switch it to use that. So whenever we handle add GIF, we're going to add owner email. So we don't have to like do a secondary lookup. And most of the time that's not going to change, but we could also handle that with a with an auth trigger later on if we want to do that. But for right now, let's do this dot client dot auth dot user dot Well, this is a good time to do another console log, and then I can figure out this. So let's down here, we'll do console dot log this dot client dot user. And we can see what all we have access to. Oh, this dot client dot auth dot user. And we go back over here and we let it refresh. Cool. So we have the ID that we used here before, information about the provider, the profile, and email. So .profile.email is what we need to grab. So let's remove that console log wherever I put it. And okay, so we'll go back to our handle add GIF function. And this is where we can insert that right in. So we've got our owner ID, and so let's add owner email. And that's this dot client dot auth dot user dot profile dot email. Boom, got it. So now every time we add one, we will have the email address put in as well. So let's go in and save that and go into the feed. And now let's instead use the email address. So I'll do owner email, or we'll do gif dot owner ID, because we started adding things without an email. So I want to make sure we display something, and I can go into the database and kind of clean that up here in a minute if I want, but I don't want it to display null or display blank. So if it doesn't have an email, let's just display the ID, just to be safe. And so when we see that, these are fun typos. This requires a comma. And so whenever we refresh, we'll see that nothing really has changed. But I can go in. Boy, it's taking a while to compile. Compiling. Cool, so it should be ready now. And I know some of you might be asking, why are you not using the terminal inside VS Code? Because I'm new to it and I'm not used to it yet. So that's why. So now if I add another one, let's go find another Steven Universe. Actually, I'm going to do one of my new favorite shows that I just binge watched is called Gravity Falls. I like watching cartoons, so if you have any good cartoons, I'm open to them. Are you running? I hope this isn't turning out choppy. Let's see, what's a good one? I like this one. I feel like this is a good one for me. Internally screaming, jumping for joy. So we're going to grab the Giphy link, and we're going to come back over here. And I'm just going to say Gravity Falls. And I'm going to add it. And it, of course, got added down here. So this time it actually brought in the email address, so you can see the person who did it, and it's more than just a number. So that's good. So all right, so it might not look pretty, but we have a working app. We can add images to it. But now let's log out and see what it looks like when we log in as person 2. Okay, so we're going to do person 2 at mdb.com, and that password should be password 2. So that should be, apparently we have it set up to where everyone can read and write everything. We'll fix that in a minute, but let's go ahead and add one as the second person. So I'm just going to grab a GIF link here, and we'll go back over and we'll add it. So we have something from person 2, and more gravity. And we're going to add. Oh, interesting. Whenever we logged out, we didn't clear the state. So that's why I was shocked to see all of that there. So let's look at that. All right, so our logout function, let's take a look. It is, so we're logging out, we're setting the state of auth to false, and then we also need to reset gifs to empty. Caught that. It's a good thing we logged out and logged into somebody else. And so, yep, take your time, do a refresh. All right, so person 2 only has, and actually let's, so we don't get kind of lost here, let's go in and let's add another header, and we'll say as, let's do an H3, and we'll say welcome. And we'll put in the user's email, and we can do that by doing this dot client dot auth dot user dot profile dot email. And I think we can always assume that the profile is going to have an email, especially with email password. So we'll leave that in there, and we'll go back and look. And so we should have an error. That's sweet. Auth of undefined. Okay. This that client dot auth dot user dot profile dot email. So we got into a situation where before the client is actually created, it's doing a render. So what I'm going to do is down here on is auth, I'm going to say this dot user email is equal to this here. So it should exist inside is auth. And for here, I can do this dot user email or like. And we'll let that refresh. Cool. So now, welcome person 2. So we know who we're logged in with. So to test the changes that we just made, let's log in as person 3. So we'll do person 3 at MongoDB.com. And that's going to be password 3. Interesting. That did not. It's because I didn't reset that either. I'm doing just a swell job of remembering to do things. So in here we'll reset the state. You know what? While we're moving things into state, let's just keep that in state. And we'll do user email is equal to this here. You know what? Never mind. We'll just reset it. We're resetting everything else. Why not? This dot user email is equal to blank. That is actually a bad place to put it, now that I think about it. That's why this is, so let's take this out of here. And we'll go into our login function because that's where we should be setting this information. So we have our login. This is where auth is being set as true. So let's go ahead and set the user email to all of that minus this. So we're setting the state there. And great. So that should take care of that. Component.getMount. This actually does not need to be there because login is taking care of it. So let's take out that too. Wow, what was I thinking? So now when we log in, we are not logged in. So let's log in as, I put this header in the wrong spot. I'm just going to take care of things as we go. This is what happens whenever you don't have like wireframes or any kind of plan. You just get to play around. So put him in here. I'm going to take out where it says I'm authed. We'll know that by the fact that it says welcome. So now we should just have the login without the welcome. Awesome. Except this is not, I can now pull this from state. User email. And whenever we log out, we're going to reset user email. And might as well go up here and throw it into the defaults. That's the set state. User email. Defaulted as nothing. Cool. We'll let that refresh. And we'll log in with person3 at mdb.com, password 3. We'll log in. And they have no gifs. So that's sad. One thing that we didn't do is do anything to say that there's nothing to display. We could easily do that down here. We could check gifs.length greater than 0. Then we would do the feed. Otherwise, we could return header as h4, no gifs to display, and let's do a somewhat sad face. Oh. All right. And so if we let that refresh, what? Oh. Bum, bum, bum. Let's see. Wait, it's still logged everything out. Oh. This emoji should be wrapped in a span and have a role equal image. Oh gosh, I'm just upsetting accessibility. Let's log back in as person3 at mdb.com. Password 3. No gifs to display. Sad face. Well, let's go ahead and wrap that to make it happy. Span role equal image. It is nice that it tells me that. Oh, role equal img. It is nice that it tells me that so I can stay playing nice. Lost my login. Okay. Not now. Person 3 at db.com. Password 3. All right. And person 3 has no gifs. Sad face. So before we add something to them, let's make a change. Because I would like for everybody to be able to see everybody's gifs. So let's go back over to our Stitch console, and we can go into our cluster. That's not the Stitch console, but it is the Stitch console. We go into our rules, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this rule, and I'm going to add another one just so we can use the templates that are available. So if I delete this, yeah, I know, I'm removing it. And we'll add the collection back. The database is data. The collection name is gifs. And we are going to use users can read all data, but only write their own data. So this is a built-in template, and we're going to make this change here. And the field name for user ID, we've been using owner ID, so we'll continue using that. And we'll add the collection. And now the only change that I have made is to these rules. So let's go back over to our app and to a refresh. And I've apparently done something to upset authentication, so it keeps logging me out. We'll figure that out later, but person 3 at mdb.com and password 3. And when we log in, now we have access to everybody's gifts. So you can see here is the person 2, here is person 1, and then these are all the person 1 ones we did before we had the email. You can see we're still on person 3. I didn't make any changes to the code, so if we go back over and we look at how we're getting the gifts, we're still saying find everything. And now the rules are giving you access to things that are other than just your ID. So that's pretty cool and that's pretty powerful. You can write a lot of different rules to do different things. So there is one more template that I really like, and I don't know if I'm going to have time to go through it today, but if we were to create the rules, let's just go and find. So let's add a database collection just to look at the template. But there's one that's really great. It's this one. Users can read and write their own data. Users that belong to a sharing list can read that data. So what we could do is put something onto each GIF and allow you to share that GIF with like another person. So if person 1 uploaded a GIF and they wanted to share it with only person 3, or only person 3 and 4 came along, we could set that up. We would add an array property, and we would write the owner IDs of the people that we want to share in there with it. Or we could even set it up to where we can just use their email address. That's probably going to be the simpler way. And then whenever you log in, you'll be able to see your stuff plus whatever's shared with you. So that's really cool. And you don't have to change anything with how we're querying. I don't really want to build out that UI right now, but I think we're kind of at a good place. So kind of with seeing how QueryAnywhere works, and so that was kind of like the goal. So one, we have our find query, and once we get access to this MongoDB instance that we use by getting the service, the remote Mongo client service, we can treat it just like we would if we were using MongoDB in the shell, making sure that we conform to the actions that are available. And if you want to know more about those, you can go into our handy Stitch documentation, and you can go down to MongoDB Atlas, and you can look at the MongoDB actions. And so this is where you can see you've got access to .db to specify the DB you're going to use, the collection to specify that collection. And then once you have a reference to the collection, you can do a find, you can do a find one, you can count inserts, do your updates, do your deletes, and then even do some aggregations. And so we did the find here. One thing we could do is we could do a sort. If I would have added a timestamp, we could sort by timestamp and get like the most recent ones first. That's similar to what I did in the Pickstream app. And then in the handle add GIF, we're using QueryAnywhere again to do an insert of one. So once we get a reference to the collection, we can do insert one and just pass in a document. Pretty easy. So I think I'm going to cut it short today. It's not a beautiful app, maybe not the most needed, but hopefully you learned a little bit about QueryAnywhere, and we'll be back next time with probably something new. I kind of want to start working on like a bigger project, something that's a little more useful. This was fun, but everybody loves gifs. But we'll see what we come up with next time. I will have this video uploaded to YouTube. Make sure you check out the playlist, like and subscribe. That would really help me out. And if you have any questions about what we're doing, about anything with Stitch, feel free to put them in the comments of the YouTube video. You can also tweet me out. So I'm at Adrian H on Twitter currently, and happy to answer any of your questions. So have a good rest of your Thursday, and I will talk to you later.